Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me today. My name is Sarah Mitchell, as you heard. I'm here wearing two hats. One is executive director of a conservancy that's now operated as a program of a foundation. But first and foremost, I'm here as a granddaughter of a founder who established a place that I grew to love as a child. And there's a bit of the classic family story that I think everybody in here can relate to. But my grandparents set aside a parcel of 6,000 acres in 1964, and they had 10 children. My father's one of 10, and they went on to have 24 so far of my generation, and we're working on the next generation. So personally, I have a really strong attachment. There's a long, boring story for how I came to actually work in the space, but we're going to skip that, and I'm going to take you on a little bit of a field trip here. This is different clips from a video for another project for our website, but I tried to put together, oh yeah. Okay, so what you're going to be seeing here is I wanted to find a way to show you sort of why this place is special to us, to our family, to our public partners, and increasingly to the community. And I wanted to highlight some of the things we've done that were made possible through partnership and hear from them why we matter to our partners a bit. So this is just a rough compilation, and it's sort of my way of bringing it to you, and then I think you'll know why I fell in love with the place. But it's a really magical place to experience, and if you were driving north of Houston for an hour, you would run into this, but we're pretty much an island at this point.
When I came through the front gate, I felt like I'd gone to a fantasy land. I was spellbound. I was just surprised there was such a place this close to Houston.
It's so quiet, and you hear the birds, and to watch an osprey catch a fish, or to hear a turkey strutting for hens, and I don't know, there's so many beautiful moments that you don't experience anymore anywhere else.
It was like magic. To me, it's a sense of joy and wonder just to see the wild things be wild.
That was my Uncle Greg. He's the second generation.
The family has taken what was once a bull pasture, a cow pasture, and turned it into the restored ecology that was once here 300 years ago. This habitat type is missing across the entire South now. It is a very important habitat type for many species. This acreage is really kind of becoming an oasis in the middle of urban sprawl that's coming out of greater Houston.
The biggest challenges we have in this era is an urbanizing environment.
It's one of the fastest growing counties in the country, and all that brings, it's ranchettes and little houses and strip malls and big box stores and all of the things that you get. We're surrounded by small towns and development, basically.
This is especially dramatic if you look at it from an aerial photo or from an aircraft.
So even at the scale of satellite imagery, we're very visible right there. There's all the habitat around us has been clear cut, and here's our perimeter. It's pretty obvious.
98% of Texas is privately owned. So the future of wildlife and our habitat is in the hands of landowners.
Well, one of those was my grandfather, obviously. He had a vision of the importance of sustainability before most people had defined it.
He decided that he would just really chart a new course and really think about sustainability, and I think that led to him purchasing the large tracts of land that now includes Cook's Branch.
My grandfather had sort of fallen in love with it, and he always had this really deep connection with sort of the dynamism of the forest. He loved biodiversity. He wanted to keep the old trees. He and my grandmother they had this really intense just respect for all life. That's my grandmother. She's no longer here, but it was very special. Great place to come and to feel connected and part of a whole, you know, part of a family and part of an ecosystem. And you really can't be here and not feel part of that.
Well, you know, it was fantastic. We'd get in the car on the weekend and drive for a couple of hours, and then finally we'd arrive at this place and go down a long dirt road into the middle of the forest, and it was like magic. And now when I approach it, it's so much development around here and so much clear-cut areas and urban sprawl, so it's very different now.
Over the years and with passing generations, the Mitchells were forced to decide how they wanted to maintain this area that was so important to them.
I was introduced to Cook's Branch and the Mitchell family back in the early 90s. I was working with the Nature Conservancy at the time, and we were working with private landowners to try to help them develop good conservation ethics and conservation programs on their land. And at that time, the Mitchell family was kind of at a crossroads. They were at a time when they were trying to decide what the future of Cook's Branch would be.
So there was definitely a time when people asked, you know, should we sell parts for development? We need to do that just to afford the place.
So a decision had to be made, and we had a vote, and we voted unanimously to preserve Cook's Branch.
I think it was definitely the proudest moment of my life, was seeing all of the family unanimously vote to protect it in perpetuity. But there was such a unified front on this one topic, and there was such a conservation ethic that I think really probably was instilled by coming here their whole lives and growing up here and feeling that connection to the land. I think they felt it was critical to be great stewards of this place that they had loved their whole lives. So this was our first call to restoration, the endangered red-cockaded woodpecker.
You know, this is, by today's standards in East Texas, an older age forest. That's the habitat type that the red-cockaded woodpecker must have to survive. That's the endangered species that the Mitchells have committed to managing.
I'm ready to go. This tree that I'm climbing is about 52 feet, the cavity is. I'll climb up there, hopefully extract all the nestlings, bring them back down here, add the color bands, and then after I do that, everything goes okay, I'll climb back up the tree and then place the nestlings back into the cavity.
So the Mitchells have really proactively helped those woodpecker families grow and prosper. And when we started, there were 13, and now there's 22 or 23 different families of woodpeckers out here.
Success. Now the banding. We put one numbered band, which is this, the silver colored band. So every bird that's banded has its own unique numbered band. When I pull these out, I'm going to put on 3 colored bands on one leg and 2 colored bands and a silver on the other leg. Every year we use the same color combination for that year's birds, just so we could come back and identify them with binoculars. If we see the right color combination, we know what year those birds were born. And like I said, each bird gets its own unique numbered band. Later on in life, you'll be able to determine exactly what cluster it came from. And so that information is important when we're moving these birds around into different populations. In this bag are the red-cockaded woodpecker nestlings. They're approximately 5 to 6 days old. And that's about a 6-day-old red-cockaded woodpecker nestling. So we put the silver
Like
one
a
on
dinosaur.
first.
It's pretty incredible to see these.
This bird is complete. We've got 3 color bands on the left leg, orange over white, white over gray, and on the right leg, orange over silver. All right, I'm going to transport the nestlings up the tree now and put them back in the cavity.
We've doubled our population in 10 years. We are the fastest growing population in the country, and it's doing so well because this family has dedicated themselves to improving the habitat here.
And also because we're returning fire to the landscape, which makes it all possible.
We're about to start our prescribed burn. We are going to start down here at the south end First thing we're going to do is put down what we call a wet line on this green road right here and just spray it down, make sure it's good and wet. After that's done, we'll start lighting at the south end and carry fire along the edge of the grass here. Let it back into the burn unit a little ways, and then once we have enough blackened material, about 10-15 feet, we'll just put a head fire on it, and the fire will sweep across with the wind.
Now, this is far more impressive in person, but I'm trying to give you a little glimpse. Work on the fear some of you have around burning. Also in the forest, it's pretty magical to see this happen.
Well, fire is a very important natural component in many of our ecosystems here in East Texas. These are fire-adapted ecosystems. Overall, we want to mimic what natural fire did, but more specifically, we want to eliminate competing vegetation, the woody undergrowth that takes over these forests and smothers the grasses and wildflowers. Fire is an essential element of these ecosystems, and it's up to us to restore it.
Eastern Turkey release, 2008, through our partnerships.
A process for me that I love the most is bringing back the eastern turkeys. They were just gone from the landscape. So Mr. Mitchell over the years said, Kathy, I would like for you to get some eastern turkeys. So we began to really work hard on our habitat. So sure enough, in 2008, we released turkeys here. And they're doing well. They're doing really, really well.
These are motion camera images from 2008 when they first arrived. They're doing really well. I feel really proud of my dad and his siblings, and I feel proud of my grandfather, and I think this is the most important thing to me that he will leave behind.
Well, Cook's Branch is truly an outstanding model for ecosystem restoration. The practices that they're developing and implementing here can serve as a model for land managers, both public and private. And also not just the ecological values, but the opportunities for education and outreach that this property provides.
I think there's a lot of interest in identifying the needs of landowners around us. You know, if you have the same values or goals, then you identify the potential for systemic change. And I think that we could potentially be the epicenter of that here in our region, because there's this moment of opportunity here to still protect some of these lands around us before they're gone. But I think that we have to act soon, or just the reality of that, the feasibility of conserving those other parcels won't be there anymore.
I think the future is looking great, because I really believe that the neighborhood is also getting on board. And I believe that the future of taking care of green spaces in this area, this particular area, it's catching on. People are getting excited about what it means, not just to this place, but what it means to this whole region.
When I actually watch this, it sounds like an infomercial. I'm gonna have to work on that a little bit, but now you've seen a bit of the place, and you get a feel for how much that we do that was enabled directly by our partnerships. So another thing that we've done that many of you are doing or considering are these prairie grass restoration projects. These were one of our early grants in the early 2000s. And the reason I want to talk for just a second about this is that there are those moments in a family's progression towards restoration where, you know, maybe you're starting to get excited about an idea and you hear that it's what you maybe should want to do, but it's also expensive to do. And you're already a little bit reluctant. You're not sure how it's going to turn out, or, oh, it's going to take 3 years to see success. You know, that it's hard to commit financially. And so I consider those early grants from our partners to be really what opened the door for our family to get excited and to start doing this work on the ground and feel good about it. And then they've continued, our relationships have continued to validate, you know, the direction that we're going and what's happening here. But this is 3 years later after our first grass restoration project. But anyway, now we have over 400 fully restored acres of prairie habitat, which is really exciting for the birds especially, but also visually it's spectacular. We have a couple 100 acres that'll be planted this year, and the majority of our property, 90%, is in a mixed hardwood pine forest. So, and we have fire across the landscape on an ongoing regimen. Nothing is excluded except for a couple test parcels. And we have annual test burn units, which are actually the highest biodiversity that we see anywhere, are on the annual burn units, which was a surprise even to us. I mean, most of our property in this region is on a 3 to 5 year burn rotation. Anyway, I won't get bogged down. I know we're behind time, so I'm just basically gonna ask if anybody has any questions. Unfortunately, one of these really great public-private partnership opportunities is taking me away early because I'm meeting a team in the field and they're considering us for a reintroduction site for a rare plant that may be about to be listed, which is exciting. So I'm sorry that I won't be here for the whole panel, but I'm just fast forwarding through this because we're so behind. But let me know if you guys have any questions. And the future of our partnership's really bright. I mean, we're looking beyond our borders now. We've been pretty internal for the last 50 years, but we've restructured. As I mentioned, we're now part of a foundation, and now we're in the program design phase, and we are looking to what we can be in the region. What do people need us to be? What role can we play in spreading this message of stewardship and conservation and sharing, you know, also just the demonstration of our project and what it looks like if it's been regenerating for a century. 'Cause that's pretty foreign in our area, at least now. So it's a pretty spectacular place. I'm very excited about a corridor collaboration that we're trying to build, which will reach out to all the landowners in our watershed, which will be really exciting if it ever happens. Let's see, I mean, there's so many partnerships I could talk about, but are there any specific questions for me while I'm here? Nope, I think we're good.
Thank you, Sarah. Let's give her.